Peace and wellness to the family. Yeah, man. My fault, y'all. These mosquitoes is treacherous out here, man. I thought it was fall. These joints is coming out crazy. But man, I wanted to talk about something that I feel was on my heart that could possibly help a lot of people out there that could be going through it could be causing a cycle in your life that could be solved if we go deeper into the emotional trauma that could be keeping us from taking accountability and properly seeing ourselves as in like our behaviors that we might think is justified, right, or actually effective. So what I wanted to tell y'all a story about how I became more emotionally available and more emotionally resilient and open was by way of the relationship with me and my ex. It was a time where she was really down, and she had been going through some things with her family. She had some death in her family, and also just stresses was trying to find herself and discover purpose. And she was having a real bad day, and she just started breaking down crying. And I remember speaking into her. I was right there with her in the car, and I was speaking into her, saying how it was going to be okay, and I'm here for her, and she's strong, and she will be empowered, and God will strengthen her and get her through the hardships that she was facing. And as I was speaking into her, I really felt what I was saying. I really felt that it was from the heart, and everything was with pure intentions, and I meant every word of it. So a day or two later, we was having a conversation, and she brought to me, she was like, when I was having that breakdown and I was crying in the car, she said, I noticed that you didn't console me. You didn't hug me. How you doing? And as she told me that, I immediately got defensive. Like, what you mean I didn't hold you and console you? I spoke into you. I gave you words of encouragement. What you mean I didn't console you? But she was like, nah, you didn't hug me. You didn't console me while I was crying and when I was going through that. And I took some time to process that. And I realized something. I realized that there was a blockage between me and her. Not a visible one, but an emotional barrier. And what I mean by that is, she was right. Because why didn't I console her? Why didn't I just go grab and give her a hug? And usually, for me, when situations like that, when a woman used to be crying, I would freeze up. I wouldn't know what to do. And I just felt unprepared. It was something that kind of put me in a place of like, I felt stuck. I didn't really know what to do, And so she was right. And so I took that and I sat with myself and we did some really deep self-work with that. And I started thinking about things and asking myself, well, on a mental dial, like, well, why didn't I do that? Because she's right. That's a behavior that she caught that subconsciously, I didn't catch it. But she's like, I noticed you didn't. So I'm like, so why didn't I? Why didn't I console her? I felt like it's like I was frozen time watching her cry. And I was saying things to her that I always wanted to say, in a sense, like something that I wanted to say. So I asked myself that question. I did the self-work, and then one day I was just sitting and I was in the house and I stopped and I got this vision. And it was a vision of my mom crying on the edge of a bed. And then I remembered it was a time when I was in the streets and the police had came in the house and they searched the house and they violated our privacy so bad. And it hurt my mom so bad to where like she just started crying. And I remember seeing my mom crying. My mom don't even remember me seeing this. She don't even know that I saw her crying. You know what I'm saying? Because as she was crying, I was sitting there looking at her and I didn't do nothing. I was just froze. I was sat there, I saw my mom cry. I didn't even come up to console her. I didn't come up to help her, ask if she was okay or nothing. How you doing? And when I got the vision, I was like, man, I really let my mom sit there and cry, and I didn't do anything when I saw her cry. It's like I was ashamed. I felt everything that I felt in that moment. That's how trauma works. See, that's how trauma works. Trauma is called trauma because you go back to that point where you were at when it happened, when the trauma actually happened, and you feel the same emotions and the same hormones get pumping through your body. The cortisol levels raise, fight or flight, nervous system goes into effect. All that comes back into play with trauma. It's like you're going through that same incident all over again. And that's what happened. And I realized that I was stuck in that emotional traumatic situation. That emotional traumatic event that happened with my mom, when I did not console her, I was stuck there emotionally. And when I found that place, when I had that vision and I found that place, I was able to ascend emotionally, which attributed to my spiritual ascension as well. So I elevated emotionally and I elevated spiritually just by finding that deep, dark place that was buried so deep in my subconscious. I wouldn't have had no idea it was there if I wouldn't have went through that relationship with my ex. For her to point that behavior out. How y'all doing? For her to point that behavior out. So I'm grateful now today to be the emotional to have the emotional IQ that I have as a man today through that actual situation and that relationship. It put me in a position to be a way better companion and a better man, to be able to know how to control my emotional reactivity most times, and how to alchemize it, and how to understand that I was stuck in an emotional traumatic space in my life to where I had to find my way out of it by reliving it, alchemizing it, taking accountability to say, oh, that's what a blockage is. That's why I behave like I do when that happens. That's why women have to initiate to be consoled when they're crying, because I was stuck in that emotional traumatic situation. That emotional trauma just had me there. So I just want to challenge you to just think about certain things people might mention to you about your behaviors that you might not see, because subconsciously you might have some things buried, some traumas buried so deep that you don't even realize what you're doing. Just think about that.